Hi guys, welcome to Noemi and Co podcast. So, today's episode, I feel like every episode I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. No. Like today's episode, I'm really excited because one of the things that's really fun about having this podcast, I get to share the stories of people that I just think are doing cool stuff, and a lot of those people are actually my friends. So today's episode, I have my friend Sephora, the queen. First of all, the hair, I can't. And every time I see you, there's a different hairstyle, which I think is very bold of you, from bald to many beautiful wigs to this
to braids.
I mean, you're just playing the game, and so I'm actually honestly like really excited to chat with you because I think like I shared with you over text.
Yep.
You're at a stage of your business that I feel
Yep.
is going to be the most relatable to most people.
Yes.
And I also think the second thing I love about your business, it's simplicity. I
Yep.
think, to quote Papa Warren Buffett,
Yep.
the $1 million idea is always the simplest one. The
Yep.
moment your idea is too complicated, just know you're heading towards broke town.
Yep.
So I think what I love about your idea, it's so relatable, it's so understanding, like it's just, I love it. So Sephora, please tell the people, who are you? What do you do?
So, like she mentioned, my full name is Sephora Sisi Mazudila. So I've been here for about 5 years, working for this company now for 3 going on 4 years. And I recently started my Agritech startup, which actually focuses on the digitalization of soil testing. So yes, it's very self-explanatory in the name, and it's called Agritech Insights. And yeah, that's what I do.
I think that's freaking amazing. And what I love about you, you're the prime example of you have many things about you that I think every woman should master that I'm learning that I suck at, as you know, because I vent to you all the time. You're my unpaid therapist. I will never pay you. Your time. That's not. But I think you're the definition of like a baddie, literally on the outside, but the brains of this girl, and you downplay it. I know you. Like you downplay with Sephora, like until you dig deep, she won't really tell you what she knows. But what I love about this is because in all truth, your knowledge of agriculture is quite insane because of the last 3-4 years that you've been in this sector.
Yep.
So my question to you as well, walk me through like a typical day looks like for you, from waking up to sleeping.
Oh, okay. So obviously I wake up. And
Around what time usually?
I wake up around 8:30. I was strategic in where I live because I do not live too far from my boss's house, which is where I start my day-to-day 9 to 5. So start breakfast with my boss. We brief the whole day. And then from then on, we decide on what we need to do. So I don't have a typical day at work because every day is quite different, which is the fun and the beauty of it, which then allows me to, I guess, practice on certain skills and to diversify the skills that I have.
Love that.
So it could be a very structured day. You're at the office and you're working on your documents, or it could be you have meetings, or you have conferences that, you know, you have to help and partake in, or you could be going to on the field. So it's very different. So I don't have a structured 9 to 5.
Your company also owns agriculture stuff, like owning in terms of palm oil, because that's an industry that I'm in as well, in terms of maize. So it's kind of cool that you're being exposed to, in your 9 to 5, you're being exposed to how to raise capital, how to allocate that capital as a business, and also how to identify the gaps in a business.
Yep.
This is where this business is falling apart. But you also see the opportunity in that market.
Exactly.
So it gives you the finance and the business aspect of a background. But then on the flip side, you're also learning about soil. You're also learning about agriculture. And what's even
the technical side of agriculture. Yes.
It's amazing that you're getting those two. And I think what I think is really cool with your job in the 9 to 5, getting that technical piece exposes you to the actual demand of agriculture of Congo. Because what I've seen often happen, many people get into agriculture.
Yes.
They plant things that are not the highest in demand.
Right.
And that's just
the easiest
problem.
to do.
The easiest thing to do, that's extremely problematic because you're planting this thing that's very sensitive to time.
Yes.
Because once you harvest it, people got to eat it. If they don't eat it or you don't transform it, it goes to waste.
Yes.
And I also think another thing that I've noticed with people doing agriculture businesses in Congo that I see has a huge gap, because people reach out to me a lot, given what I do in Bandundio. People underestimate the cost that goes into agriculture businesses. I come from tech. I've started application in my mom's garage for
Yep.
$100.
Yep.
Agriculture, I got $100 in agriculture. Like what is that?
It's not even petrol to get to. It's something to go to.
Take that money, go to a restaurant. Like,
Honestly, just forget it.
You need. I think agriculture is just so expensive as an industry.
Yes, actually, funny enough, I got a call the other day from someone he asked for my advice, and they said, "I have 20,000. What can I do in agriculture?" And I was like, "Oh,
That's
you're quite limited."
Very.
And trying to break down, for example, just the cost of buying land, and then hiring the people, and then the transportation there and back, and then buying the grains or the fertilizers that you need, the equipment. 20,000 will go very quick. So yes, like you said, of course, with my job, I do get to see the technical side, the science side of agriculture that obviously I wasn't exposed to before, considering I come from a econ math background. So it was quite a transition with starting where I work, but it was great. It was fantastic. I have a fantastic boss who's an amazing mentor, and that's where I learn everything that I learned from. And like you said, many people in Congo, and I'm sure just not Congo, Sub-Saharan Africa probably in general, many people have the notion that you buy land, you buy grains, you plant it, you throw some water on it and you're good to go. Yeah. There's a whole science behind it.
Yeah.
And when you do want to start investing in producing in agriculture, for example, logically, you have to understand the soil that you have. In Congo is very vast. It's huge.
Too big.
It's huge.
I don't know much of Congo, to be honest. If I have to be brutally honest.
It's like 5 of the biggest European countries put into one. That's how big it is.
Yeah.
So you can only understand the variety of soils that you have in different regions across Congo. Many people don't understand that, or many people negate that and forget and just woof. And you cannot. Your soil, the soil in Bakongo or Bandundu will never be the same as Equateur, Akatanga, Kasai, Asankuru. It's not the same. So when you do buy land, wherever you do buy land for whatever agricultural purposes, you do need to test your soil. Now in Congo, unfortunately, there are not many centers or laboratories that actually do soil testing.
No.
If I can name 2 top of my head, it's Unikin, the University of Kinshasa, and the university in Lumumbashi. That's about it. So if you have land in Equateur, for example, if you have land in Maniema, if you have land in whatever remote province, and you need to test your soil, you are very limited. Because the time you actually extract soil, you send the soil to the laboratories, you have to wait for it to be processed and then sent back to you, you're waiting for a good 4 months.
Been there.
If you're in those provinces. If you're in Kinshasa, it might take you a couple more weeks.
Yeah. A month and a half. Me, it took me a month and a half.
And you're in Kinshasa, so imagine someone from Chuapa trying to... It's ridiculous. So,
And the cost. Ridiculous.
And the cost, exactly. So if you buy land for 20 hectares, for example, you have to do multiple soil tests across the 20 hectares. You do not just take one small sample and just assume and generalize or extrapolate for the 20 hectares. You have to do it across. So that's a solution that I found in terms of soil testing, in terms of the result rate and getting it back quickly and getting scientific results.
I love that.
So there's a machine that we now have. So Agritech Insights, my startup, we are in the MVP stage. We're finishing the MVP stage. And with the machine, it's remote. So you can actually move around with the machine. It weighs about 5 kg. And it allows you to go to the most rural areas of Congo to do your soil testing. And you have all the equipment, all the pipettes and the solutions and the powders that you have to use to actually.
And they're easy to understand. Very
easy to understand.
User friendly.
It's literally like
like a game set for children.
Exactly, a game set almost of a laboratory that you can take on the move.
I love that.
And you literally test your soil in the machine. It gives you results in a couple minutes.
Love that.
And it gives you recommendation on pesticides, on fertilizer, or what crop you should grow depending on the soil you tested. And it's just much easier, and it's more efficient, and it's cheaper, and also it allows you to go to the most remote areas of Congo and help those who need soil testing.
The most.
The most.
And that And Congo is so vast. There's so much untapped land.
Exactly.
So much untapped. And
800 million hectares of arable land, you can only imagine.
And I also have a theory. I have a bit of a theory. I think it makes sense. Correct me if I'm wrong. The closer you are to concentrated cities like Kinshasa, Lubumbashi is up and coming now, Goma and all that stuff.
Yep.
I feel like the soil gets weaker because it's been so exploited, so exposed.
Exactly.
Whereas the inner parts of DRC, like I would love to visit Equatorial. It's
Ooh,
my
me too.
dream to see Equatorial. I have a theory. The soil in Equatorial, the forest there, the lush,
Yes,
the trees,
dense,
the
it's-
dance is like the dream of most
Yes.
agriculture folks.
Yes.
Cocoa. We should have had like the biggest cocoa factory after Côte d'Ivoire in history. Like,
I mean, I think just before independence of Congo, Congo was the largest exporter of coffee and cocoa in Central Africa. So there you go. And most of it came from the Goma region or the Equatorial region, as you said. I do agree because of the density in Kinshasa. People do buy lands and they do deplete the minerals and the nutrients within the soil to grow whatever produce they do. Because they do not soil test, they do not replenish this. So then what happens is you grow, you harvest, and then maybe 10 years later you sell your land to someone else who gets the same idea to do agricultural produce, doesn't test the soil, and just repeats the same process. So unfortunately, that is very common in the Kinshasa region and also now as well in the Sele region and the Bakongo. But like you said, the further up north you go from Kinshasa, the more minimal rich the soil. And yes, it's ideal. Everyone would love to have mineral rich soil untapped. However, you do have the question of logistics.
which is our big issue. You don't have infrastructure. You're too far from the capital city. How
Exactly.
you gonna? I'm in Bandundu. It's a 6-hour drive.
Imagine.
And my back hurts every time. I'm always looking for like, does anybody have a flight near my farm? Nobody does.
Yep.
But I think what you're saying is so key. And I think one thing I really love about what you're sharing, and this I think is hands down the most relatable. I really want to touch on a few points. You said a lot of things that I really want to touch on, but let's start more with the agriculture technical piece, and then we'll go over the juggling of the 9 to 5 with a startup. So I think, just to recap, from my understanding, when you want to get into agriculture, okay, fine. I'm Noemi. I want to get into maize because I believe that maize between Kasaifos, Katanga, Lubumbashi, they eat it like it's water for them. In this area with Simul, I want to go, okay, step one, land. There's two models, I think, with land. You can buy or you can rent.
Right.
Here, it's less headache if you buy.
Yes.
It's more costly.
Yes.
But I don't think people realize you can actually rent land. It's a thing
Yes.
because people have so much land that's just not used and they don't care to get into the business of agriculture.
Of course.
Make a deal with them, pay them regularly.
Yep.
And then now when it comes to maize, I need to know that the soil in which maize grows in looks very different than palm oil, which I've learned that the hard way.
Okay.
And so with that, then comes the idea of testing your soil.
Right.
And I think what I love about your idea, like you said, easy, friendly tool, easy to use, it's portable, you get results. From I understand those results, are they going to my phone? Are they how am I getting these results and how am I interpreting them?
So, of course, we are trying to cater to all kinds of clients and audience. So you can get your results on paper, which will give you a step-by-step understanding of your soil. You can have it on your phone as an app, and we also have a platform. So with the platform, you will sign into your accounts, and it will give you your results based on the soil testing that you just did. And it also allows you to have access to information in regards to saturation, for example, of crops in your region, or saturation of producers, the demand in different regions, different provinces, the average cost per ton, for example. So this is to provide almost as much as we can perfect information for the producers of agriculture. So that way you understand the market you're in and you can try and benefit from as much as you can. So then again, it allows people to sell to the capacity that people are willing to buy.
Amazing.
It shows you demand, so it also indicates to what kind of produce you should be looking to grow, depending on demand and
love
supply.
that.
So it depends on how the client wants their results, paper, app, or on the platform.
But that's amazing. I mean, that's just amazing. That's like insane market research in real time.
Exactly.
I mean, the data you're going to get is going to be like magnificent. And I'm like a data nerd. So for me, data is currency. And also, you and I have talked about this before. We have so many agronomists. These are agronomists
Yes.
in this country. Some of them sketchy, some of them reliable.
Right.
But because of your experience, you've pulled an amazing database of contact agronomists. Because yes, your data can be interpreted like that. But
Yes.
from my experience, there is value of having an agronomist
Yes.
walk you through it. Is that something that like you can offer people on top of? What do you think?
Actually, the people who are on the ground doing the soil testing are actually agronomists.
Oh, so that's an additional service that I can get if I want.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So by default, actually, the people that we test in the soil are agronomists because the machine and the equipment is quite technical and scientific.
Okay.
So I did prefer to use agronomists because that's what they, specialize in. So once they test your soil, these agronomists, you get raw information, you get raw data in regards to the minerals. So the average person, the average Jane, you and I won't be able to interpret this correctly.
No.
You need an agronomist to tell you, okay, this is what it means in terms of percentage of mineral depletion, etc. So the agronomists are actually very vital for this because they're the one who infers and interprets the results that you get from the machine to the actual client in a way that the client would understand. If we start speaking percentages of phosphorus, I'm sorry, I'm out.
I'm out.
But when you tell me, Sephora, this is what your soil needs in terms of fertilizer or pesticides in terms of this crop to grow your produce, your desired produce, fantastic, that I can understand. So yes, agronomists are very much in use in my startup because they are the ones who literally transform raw data into information that we can actually digest.
I love that. And another thing with your business that I really love, it's a concept that's actually quite popular now in North America.
Yep.
I think it's always kind of existed here. The difference is here people are not very good at branding and labeling. Right. So what you did was you took a tool that already exists technically. Like in other foreign markets, it exists.
I did not reinvent the wheel.
You didn't reinvent the wheel. You just brought it to a new market.
Exactly.
And what you did is what people call something white labeling.
Exactly.
So you really took an existing product. But what I love about what you did was you actually went on the ground. You tested it several times.
Yep.
Because you're trying to get those KPIs, key
Exactly.
performance indicator, to validate that the data
Exactly.
is actually aligned with traditional testing.
Exactly.
So that's really insane. So I think that's what's beautiful about this as well, which also means, correct me if I'm wrong, the starting cost of that first kit that you bought as a product in the middle of a product was not that exacerbated in terms of cost.
Yes.
Because to me, when I say exacerbate, I have a benchmark.
Yep.
Anything over 10K, 10, 20K, that's when it's steep.
As a first machine.
As a first machine, that's when it's steep. Like as
Very.
a business, anything less than 10, if you really bootstrap meaning self-funding, mom and dad, friends and family, you can really get away with starting with 10K.
Yep.
Not everybody has that luxury,
Exactly.
but most people, believe it or not, could.
Yep.
And I think that to me is the beautiful thing about your product. And I think also the other thing I love about this product, you said, is just so small and so practical. Like we are in an era of telephones.
Exactly.
And agriculture in this country, from my experience, when I'm on the ground, I don't want to be carrying no damn bulky and even carrying the freaking soil. I've done that.
Yep.
Took like 5 plastic, but like I'm like
Really?
It was so ridiculous. And I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
So I think this is really insane that you get to do that on the ground. So I think this is where then I go to the more day-to-day sort of question of,
Okay.
talk to us about the challenge, and in itself it's a victory, but the challenge of trying to raise capital and why you started by self-funding it. Because it takes a huge leap of faith in
Yes.
your idea to sacrifice your salary.
Yep.
And I hope you don't hate me for sharing this, but I'm like, you're not the chick that like mom and dad are pumping you cash.
No.
Let's really just get that out
Yeah,
of the way.
yeah. I may look at
You always look bougie, but that's the
it's
thing
not
about
the
being
case.
quinoise. Like, les quinoises, même si on est fauché, hein, on va jamais montrer.
Exactly.
But literally, but I think people need to know that because it makes you more relatable to most.
Yes.
That you don't have mom and dad money, although you're working for an incredible firm, an incredible company. You're not getting these like bonuses left to right where it's like making it rain every day that people think it is in like when you're in political roles. You're not in that, you're in the private sector in a third world country.
Yep.
Like, so I think that, and also it must be said, I'm a risk taker by nature. Freaking hate 9 to 5. I'm willing to be broke for 8 months because I believe by the end of the year I will raise eventually.
Yep.
But most people I don't think should do what I do. I
Exactly.
really don't think so. I think most people need financial security.
Yes.
Most people need that 9 to 5. But I also have done that route. For me, it was way too hard in terms of juggling priorities,
Of course.
juggling time. So I think for me, I want you to sort of share with us of How did you sort of like budget yourself, so that you put the money aside towards buying the product? And we're not even going to talk about importation fees, but please do share the fee that you had to pay if you are comfortable with that.
Yeah, of course.
Because the people need to know that this country doesn't produce anything. So anything that
Yes.
comes in is exacerbated in your starting costs. So talk to us about that.
So, like you said, yes, I have a 9 to 5, and that's pretty much how I fund my life. And also, obviously, I'm a woman. You have to always have savings. At the same time, I'm trying to start a startup. It's not easy at all. It was never easy, and I never had the idea that it would be easy either. So it was just a question of saving, a question of putting money aside for an idea you genuinely believe in. So before before I even bought my first machine, I spoke to a lot of people in the agricultural sector just to find out how they felt about the soil analysis process in Kinshasa, in Congo, and I got the same feedback. Just complaints
we're good at that.
about the costs, about how long it takes to get the soil results back, and the feasibility of actually getting soil from other provinces to Kinshasa. All of this logistical issues, I realized was something that could be solved. And I simply did my research. I also looked at other neighboring countries and what they do in terms of soil testing. And that's where I got the idea for Agritech. Again, so as much as I do love my bougie lifestyle, and I did sacrifice a holiday. So usually I travel beginning of December to the end of January. That's when I take my holiday from work. And I usually like to go to a nice exotic country, spend 2 months there and live my life. But this year I decided that no, I did have to buy the machine. So I sacrificed my holiday expenses or my holiday budget to buy my first machine. I bought my first machine, which cost just under 4K. And I had it exported from the country of origin to London to Congo. If I did directly to Congo, it would have taken me about 2.5 months. And I already had clients showing interest and contacting me for soil analysis. So I decided to do, it was China to London, London to Kinshasa, which took about 2 weeks, which was
Nice.
far better. And yeah, so it's a question of priority. You have to prioritize. If you genuinely believe in your idea, in your startup, if you have enough feedback from people, if you have enough people showing interest in paying for the service before you've actually started to, fantastic. Because that way you know that there is a market that are already willing to pay
Yes.
for the idea of a solution without the solution actually coming to fruit yet.
I love that.
So when the machine did arrive, I actually had an Excel database, an Excel sheet of all the potential clients who have been contacting me and questioning me in regards to this from months prior till now. So it was just a question of getting the machines here, then hiring the agronomes, and then literally starting the soil testing and then going on from there. I do also have to say that this is the first version of my startup. It is the MVP stage. And as everyone should know, you never fall in love with the MVP stage, your first actual
Talk about it. Talk about it.
So my first machine is not the final,
Yeah.
the final solution or the final service and produce that I'm providing to clients. But with the first 50 clients that I already have,
Nice.
it's from there that I'll be making iterations, making adjustments and
Beautiful.
improvements
Beautiful.
on the actual service of soil testing, on the platform itself. So that's where I'm at. And I would love to say it was easy to generate investments from other. It was difficult. It still is difficult. And one thing I've learned from my amazing mentor and also from starting this project is people are more likely to invest in your startup once they've seen you actually progressing and advancing yourself.
Yes.
So at first, before I bought the first machine, I wasn't really keen on buying the first machine from my own pocket. I did want some sort of investment to allow me to buy the machine, but I realized this is not coming. It's just not.
Yeah.
I bought the first machine. I contacted my clients. I finished the MVP stage. And then, wow, you should see the amount of people that are now willing to invest.
Nice.
And it's great, it's fantastic. But again, to improve the quality of investors that are now reaching out to me, I've decided to continue using my own money at this moment to again progress and advance the solution of Agritech, and then I'll go for more investors, because from then on I do need to buy more machines, I do need to hire more agronomes, I need to make this service accessible in other provinces, so that might mean people have to travel and do so it is a process. It will take some time, and with such an idea you cannot rush.
No,
you have to do it meticulously and make sure you are following your business plan, or making sure you're following your financial model to the T, if you can. And from then on, you'll know where to advance from. So that's where I'm at.
Girl, you said so many beautiful things. I think one of the biggest things that you mentioned on that, it's my new preaching now. And I'm preaching to myself because it took me almost 10 years of failing so many businesses, because I started entrepreneurship in Congo quite young, that the biggest thing I teach a lot of people now is know your market.
Yes.
Congo is different than most markets. I'm telling you, what has worked in Ivory Coast will not work here, because they started with agriculture way ahead than we did. You look at their history. What has worked in Ethiopia, Nigeria, unlikely to work here, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So you need to contextualize the context. And one of the reasons why it's so important is that, realistically speaking, Congo, in terms of investment coming in, we're one of the lowest. We get mostly money for public sector NGOs, even NGOs actually dying. But private sector investment, barely. I think I read the statistics the other day, it's less than 2%.
Yes, exactly.
Because when you look at the big fours, Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, and Egypt, they're like billions is flooding in. We're not even getting a penny of that. So there's a lack of trust and a lot of issues. So I think that's one. So the fact that you are aware of those dynamics and you're like, let me at least start something small. And to your point, which is the second thing I was going to say, what you're saying is what my mom called humans, or what we call St. Thomases. St. Thomas was a mythical creature. He only believed when he saw. The problem is, people have to understand, as founders like myself, we're idealists. We see vision, we see a problem, we see the solution. But this has to go to concrete before anyone can put the money in a risky market. And I think what you said is so key. And I would definitely be interested to see how at this stage you can already start making money, because you can already someone like me, I actually need your product. And I'm not just saying it because you're on my show, but like it's actually legit. It's a legit like reason. Like my soil, we're actually getting ready to start planting arachide. We're gonna start planting piment, because we're not people that want to rent our land to like for us to produce for them, and then they just transform it. That way they can beat market price in Kinshasa. But before we do that, I'm like, hold up. Let me make sure that this dusty land has proper pH, has proper, like, that way it's actually appropriate for what you need. So I'll need a service like yours. And with my experience with Unikin, unfortunately, I'm not using them again. It was too much of a pain in the butt. I'm not doing that. So I think it's so cool that like you tapped into a market that's essential in agriculture processes for serious clients. Because the ones that are not serious and probably don't have the money anyway, you don't want them as clients, which is another thing. Not everybody needs to be your client. And I think the last thing I love, your tool is backed by science. I think in Congo, I really believe the future of Congo businesses as to be essential businesses. Let's move away from sexy, fun, flashy businesses. Let's focus on the essentials. But more importantly, when an essential business is backed by science, I'm like, respect. So I think I applaud you for that. And I think for me, another thing that I want to talk about that's kind of like segue a little bit, it's part of my podcast is I'm self-aware that a lot of people that are listening to this, whether they're of Congolese origin or not, they look at us, they're like, damn, these baddies are doing it. I want to do it too. And yes, that's what we should do. We should inspire more people to do what we're doing. We need more Congolese entrepreneurs. I'm very vocal about that. But I think one of the things I really want my podcast to shed the light on, those of us that are here, let us be transparent with you of the do's and don'ts. That way when you come, we've made the mistakes for you. Listen, you're going to need to make those mistakes too, because that's how you learn in life. But you can make less of them by learning from our lesson learns. So I think one thing what you meant, you talked about kind of lightly that I think is so important to also talk about. Let's be real. Your 9 to 5 has given you a bit of a platform, because you have an employer who I don't need to name him, but your employer started a successful business in agriculture, which exposes you to an industry, contacts. Yeah,
Exactly.
you're not going to go towards those contacts because that's a conflict of interest, and let's be professional.
Of course.
But let's be honest, it still exposes you to a certain clientele, gives you a legitimacy that on your own you probably would not have had. And I really think that's so important for us to talk about in the sense of like, and this is tough. Like when I say this, I don't want to discourage people, but I just think it's a reality. When you come into Congo, especially from overseas, you're coming back as a diaspora. If you don't have the contact through family, aka last name,
We always say this.
if you don't have the contact with whoever's in power, which I hate that route because I find politics too finicky.
Yeah.
And 1 minute you're in power, the next minute
you're
you're not. And we've seen the cycle since Mobutu.
Yeah.
So I'm not going that route, but it is a necessity sometimes in this country. Maybe not directly, but it does help when you have a family member working for that political party.
Yep.
And also want to emphasize, it depends on the connection. I think a lot of people in Congo that I've seen,
Yeah.
they all talk. Oh,
Yeah.
my uncle works for the Ministry of Agriculture so they can mobilize funding. When's the last time you spoke to that uncle?
Exactly.
And
That's
honey,
a very good point.
That uncle, the moment he's in politics, he's not your uncle no more.
Yeah. He's everyone's uncle, so yeah.
Like I think what are your thoughts on like if you're coming in wanting to start a business similar to mine, please do. But here are the geopolitical, socioeconomic landscape that you need to be aware of in navigating a space.
I think when it comes to many diasporans or expats, they have this misconception that because they're from whatever country they're from, they can come here and just
Make billions.
make billions in a couple months and then just leave. It's not the case.
You've been here for how long? Since you
This is my 5th year.
fifth? I mean,
This
it's
is
third.
this is my 5th. Oh my gosh.
Girl, you had to spend this. You had to spend this much time to understand the market.
You did. I did. And it's true. So, yes, like you said, unfortunately, nepotism in Congo is of high value. If you have contacts, and when I say contacts, like you said, it's actually a family member that you have a relationship with, not an uncle or your dad's uncle's best friend. No, that doesn't work. So if you do have contacts and they can help you advance or put you in a room where you're somewhat of some significance or importance there, great. However, like I say, you can enter a room, but you have to stay. You have to find a way to keep yourself in the room.
Yes.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not
You gotta
easy.
stay relevant. You gotta have
to stay-
accolades.
Exactly. And there's always, the odd person trying to backstab. And
A lot.
Congo is not for the weak.
No.
Mentally, physically, it's not for the weak. So yes, it would definitely help if you do plan to move back to Congo or start business in Congo. You do have some connects or some connections that could help leverage whatever you're trying to do. That would be great. If not, if you do have capital,
Yes.
high capital, then you could also find a way
100%.
to maneuver yourself in Kinshasa.
Money buys you power.
Exactly. So yes, it was quite difficult for me, and by God's grace, I did land the job that I have now. Again, through contacts, through an uncle, and I have to be very honest. And like I said before, you can enter a room, but you have to find a way to make sure you stay.
I think that's a big one. I think that's a huge one of like, and that's why I actually advise a lot of people. So part of you in business staying relevant, it's in your best interest to always have some kind of business that
Right.
serves a high demand sector.
Right.
You and I, we've talked about this. Our prediction is that agriculture is the next wealth of DRC.
It's the next mining sector.
It's a nice mining sector. DRC, since the beginning of time, the Lord has blessed us or cursed us with soil that has insane mines.
Yeah.
It's been a curse at this point, in my opinion. But I really think, realistically speaking, people are predicting that in 30 to 40 years, a lot of the mines will be gone, actually.
Yeah.
Mines are not like flour that keep growing every
Yep,
day.
yep.
At some point, they've been so extracted and
Yep.
in the black market, we're not even able to track what is left anymore sometimes because it's so informal. Girl, our phones. And I'm embarrassed to say I'm a Mac gal.
Oh, me too.
I'm embarrassed. Like I can't even march against mining because
gosh.
I'm a consumer of what people are storing in my country. But I think the reason why agriculture is becoming so hot is because we have such a vast land, such a rich soil in terms of even agriculture.
Yes.
That I predict that agriculture will be next. And after agriculture, it's going to be water.
Oh yes,
Water is going to, because climate change, everybody's saying
Yep.
that. And I know you're also planning on launching water analysis tools, which I think is
Yes.
freaking genius. Because,
Yep.
by the way, because I spent a lot of time in Kenya, there's more water brands in DRC than there in Kenya. And Kenya has a higher purchase power.
There you go.
We have the Congo River. You freaking do a sit-down in 2 minutes. You have unbelievable water, so which everybody can do now. But I really think this is the key thing with agriculture. And I think going back to what you were saying of get the connection, but you got to stay in the room.
Yes.
Part of you staying in that room and staying relevant is having a business that meets a demand that when you're going to say a conference with X, Y, and Z ministry, because here everything centers around government, or when you're going X, Y, and Z event that you were invited to by that family member that's in power, what makes you relevant and what makes people want to latch onto you, which sadly you want, because this is the game of power, is having a business that's legitimate.
Yeah.
And I think having the education, because
Yep.
I think in all truth, we see too many diaspora that have come here with little education or education that's not really that relevant from the West.
Yes.
But you
Yes.
don't realize you're coming into these rooms, you're not interacting with people that have studied in London, have
Yes.
studied in Canada, and that are having the deliverables, and you're not able to compete. And what I've seen happens then, we have 1 or 2 people that stuck it out for 5, 6, 10 years. They did have the education. They're getting all the funding. They don't even have to do anything anymore.
Yes.
And what's even more incredible with those kind of people, they deliver.
Yeah, it's important. It's very important. Like you said, many people do move from the West to Congo with sketchy backgrounds, somewhat. I must say, because I've met many people.
It's called LinkedIn.
Right.
It's called LinkedIn. I will look you up the moment you're talking.
So it's all very well to catch your flight and move back to Congo. Like I said, you can be introduced to people and put into rooms, but you have to find a way to stay in these rooms. Fortunately for me, I was finishing university, my master's online when I decided to stay in Congo. And with my background, I guess my boss found value in me in different ways. And I was very malleable considering I finished university, which then also allowed the company that I work in to also mold me in a way that will benefit the company and also my own progression in my career. So luckily for that I would say was the main thing that kind of kept me in the room. And also I came with a brain. So yes, I was very young, still learning how to do my job in the company, etc., which is the reality when you do start a job after university. But it's also understanding your errors and then being able to fix them and then to continue from then on and just continue progressing. So that was the case with me. And now that I've started this startup, it's true. I'm now getting invited to these conferences, to these interviews, to feature on these magazines, to do these expos, which is great considering I'm just finished my MVP stage. So the startup that I've done, which I must say, cut that out.
Don't.
Which I must say was a side project. It was never meant to be my main job or for me to quit my job and become a full-time entrepreneur. It was never that. It was to find a solution to a problem in a market that I identified. And if it generates side income for me, fantastic. If it doesn't, I've learned now how to maneuver in such a market, in such a sector. So in the future, if I do want to restart or do another company or do another startup, I have my errors. I've learned my ways.
Love that.
So yes, you have to play the game.
It's a game.
You have to play the game.
And if you're not willing to play the game, don't bother.
Yes, and FYI also, being a woman here in Congo, working in a male-dominated sector.
I don't know how you do it. You deal with so much misogyny.
It's ridiculous. And the fact that I speak French, I just about speak French, doesn't help me. It doesn't help my case working in the private sector in Congo. Being a young woman, unmarried and expat, all of these elements you have to take into consideration.
Totally.
My life would be very different if I was a young man, unmarried, working here in Congo.
100%.
Very different. So these are, again, things that you have to juggle and things that you have to know how to maneuver and be very mature about. And sometimes you do have to swallow your tongue. And it's just expected. If you want to progress, you just have to learn how to play the game. It doesn't mean that you succumb to the norms of society here that you don't actually adhere to.
I love
No, but you have to learn how to play the game. Sometimes you have to be the Trojan horse. And when you are ready, like Kendrick says, you just pop up and show them.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is the case, and it's very much the case with me. So yeah, with Agritech, now that it's getting more traction, it's certainly opening a few more doors for me, but it was never my intention for that. It was always to help the agricultural sector. And that's where I'm at.
I love that. I love that. Honey, I mean, we're sort of coming to another of our podcasts here, but I could talk to you all day, which I will. And tomorrow we're grabbing drinks because I told myself that I would stop. I wouldn't drink wine this year, but please.
It's International Women's Day tomorrow. It's
Girl,
a day
I have
off.
like 20 cabs already. It's only the third month of the year. But I think, but I really think, not just for as a friend, someone that adores you, always cheers you on. Congratulations. I think it's no small feat. I think Congo, in all truth, I just think Congo, everything is 10 times harder. And it's unfortunate. It's our country though. And I think part of why we're sticking it out is because it is our country. And I think what you've done that I really admire is that you stuck it out for almost 5 years, and it's not easy. And I think earlier when you were mentioning sacrificing a vacation, some people may hear that as, oh my gosh, it's so obligé. No.
When
There's
you live in
actually a
Congo,
logic. I tell everybody that moves back to Congo, you gotta go on vacation at least twice a year.
Yes.
If not 5 times, because it's just good
you
for
will
your
lose
mental
your
health.
mind.
You will lose your mind, and it sounds
cracky.
it sounds also really bad. Sometimes you also lose a bit of your intelligence because being exposed to another more progressive economy inspires you to do the work here.
Exactly.
So I think I really, really congratulate you on that. So as a closing tradition to my podcast, I always ask 2 questions to everybody.
Let's go.
The first one is in 2 words. How would you describe yourself? 2 words.
Stylish and social.
No, I think that's weak.
You think?
Because it is your top. If I would describe you top 5, stylish 150,000%, social 100. You're the best flirt in the game. You need to do it. That should be your business.
This out
No. That should have been your business, your side business. like be a matchmaker and like teach women like us that are too in the books to learn, because we're struggling here. It's rough in these streets, but literally.
Okay.
But I would say stylish, yes. Social, that's a given.
Okay.
But I think another one, I think that use better words that I think are more core and true to you.
Determined, and also a learner.
That I think is way better.
Yeah.
I think it's way better.
Determined and a learner. I'm learning every day and open to learning, and I'm determined because I'm still here, year 5.
Yeah, you're very resilient.
So exactly. So I have my goals that I do want to achieve, and I have my plans. So
love that. And our last question, which is also one of my favorites, like let's go a couple years later, you've passed away, and you're kind of having a bird's-eye view of your funeral or whatever.
Okay.
What is one legacy, one thing you want to be remembered for?
I would love to be remembered for, obviously outside of the human side, being loved and etc. I don't know. I've never thought of this question.
How would you like to be remembered? Because I think it sets the path of how you live your life.
I would like to be remembered as a hardworking woman who broke many rules to be able to establish herself and live the life that she wanted. And a woman who paved the way for other young Anglophone-speaking women who moved back to Congo to re-establish themselves. That's what I would like to be remembered for. I'd like to be remembered for to be a model.
I love that.
So young girls or young women look up to me and think, yeah, if she did it with her broken French, damn, I can do it too.
And our broken Lingala.
Well,
I mean, my girl, thank you so much for today's podcast. I adore you.
Thank you.